Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy. I'm so happy you're here. Now let's get to crafting. For this Dollar Tree DIY, we're going to be using 2 of those basketball hoop baskets, 2 small stove covers, some ring phone holders, 2 metal brackets, and some nautical rope. And so the first thing I'm going to do is pull off the handles from my baskets, and I'm going to save those for a future project because I'm sure I could use those. And then I'm going to take some big wire cutters and pull off those little knobbies at the ends of my baskets. So now I'm going to take my sanding sponge and give these a pretty good sanding. Anytime you paint plastic, it's always best to give it a sanding so that it doesn't chip or crack. And then I'm going to take my cell phone rings and place those on the top of those, and then I'll take them outside and spray them with my Krylon matte black spray paint. And you'll see a little later on, I'm not going to end up using those rings after all. But now I'm going to take my sanding sponge and sand down my stove covers, kind of the same deal with the metal when you're painting it with chalk paint. And then I'm going to take some multi-purpose cement from the Dollar Tree as well as some hot glue, and I'm going to put those stove covers together. And I have this hook from another DIY that you'll see a little bit later. And then once I get them all put together, it doesn't matter how messy I get with my hot glue, I'm just going to sandwich that hook in between the 2 stove covers and then take my hot glue and just gob it on there. That'll get covered up later. Then I'm going to take my white chalk paint and paint my entire piece, and this is going to become a pulley. So I want it to look like wood. And in order to get that wood look, I'm going to first paint it white with my chalk paint, and then I'll go back with my Waverly wax in antique. So when I'm trying to get a wood look, I'm just going to get the wax on there kind of in thinner layers, and then I'll just keep layering on top of it, but I'm always going to go in the same direction, just like you would see the grain of wood going. And then I'll do the same thing on the sides and then on the back. And once you get it done, you can choose which side looks better, and then you can decide which will be the front and which will be the back. So now I'm going to take my nautical rope and I'm going to hot glue that to the top part of my pulley, and I'm only going to go down to about the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock position so that those ropes can just hang. And then I'm going to take my brackets that I painted in my Waverly chalk paint in ink, and I'm going to hot glue that at the parts where it touches, which is just the tips and then the 2 sides where it touches the rope. So that's where I'll put my hot glue. So in my original design, I had planned to make these pendant lights, and once I attached my ropes to my baskets, I staggered them, and it was okay, but I didn't love it, and I'll show you what it looks like here. And so I decided to change it up, and I just didn't think they were high-end looking at all, so I detached them from the rope and then just decided to unravel that rope and get those 3 strands. I turned the baskets over and then attached them right side up so that they became actual baskets. And I think it's way cuter this way. There could have been a good way to pull that out, but I really wanted to keep this all Dollar Tree, so I just opted for this. So to attach my rope, I just fed it through one of the holes and then just took some wired twine and wrapped it around there to keep it secure. So then I took some poster stickers in the numbers and the letters and then some rub-on letters, and I'm just going to make the abbreviation for the word number by doing the capital N and then the tiny O with the line under it. And I was just going to put 5 for the number of people in my family, but it was a little too small, so I decided to make it longer and put 54, which is the age I will be this year. And here it is all finished, and I just added some greenery into the bottom and put some black felt down below so that would lift it up because these aren't the right size, but that's okay. I think it turned out super cute. If you had this in your kitchen, you could actually put some fruits in there. It really is very sturdy. So I love how it turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. Today's video is in collaboration with my sweetest friend ever, Nicole at the Week's Nest, and we tried to come up with a DIY using that basketball net basket and some rope in at least one project, and thankfully my job is now done. But not only is she my sister in Christ, she is super talented, and I hope you'll show her some White Sparrow love as soon as you're done here. And if you're coming from Nicole's channel and you like what you see, welcome, and I hope you'll stay a while. And here's a little sneak peek of her projects, and I will have that video linked in the description box below. So Dollar Tree carries two different sizes of these round mirrors, and I had gotten 11 of these scarecrow brooms from back in the fall, so that would work perfectly for the smaller mirror, but because I used the larger mirror, I had to kind of adjust because I didn't have enough to go all the way around. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull my mirror out, and this is kind of a hard plastic, so I ended up breaking those little tabs on the back, which ended up working out better anyway. And then to give myself kind of a flat area to attach my brooms to, I took some tumbling tower blocks and just hot glued those inside that opening on the back part of my frame. And then I took some scissors and started cutting my brooms apart, and then I flattened them out and added hot glue and then attached them to the back of the frame. And I just did that all the way around as far as I could go, and then once I ran out, I just took the handles and cut the jute twine off of them, spread them out, and just kind of layered them. It was going to end up being a little bit smaller than I originally wanted, but if you get the right number of brooms, you can do it all the way around and it'll be nice and big. And for the little gaps where a Jenga block wouldn't fit, I just took a popsicle stick and cut it down and then hot glued that onto the Jenga pieces so that it would be flat all the way across. So then to get it even all the way around, I just gave it a haircut and just used my scissors, and this was so messy when I was doing this. But anyway, I got it all even, and then I took some hot glue, and just to give it some more security, I just gobbed it on all along the back side. And then I'm going to take it out to spray paint it. So first I masked it off with some painter's tape and just went around the edges, and then covered it up with some paper and got it all nice and covered. And then went out to my painting station, and I first painted the back side just in case there was anything that would show through from the front. So I'm using my Krylon flat white spray paint, and then once I got the back side painted, I turned it over and hung it up and painted the whole thing white. And then once it was dry, I'm going to take it back inside and we'll do a little tape reveal. And then using some more of that nautical rope, I'm just going to hot glue that all the way around the outside of my frame, and then I'll replace the mirror and it's all done. Now you don't have to paint yours white, it's totally personal preference, but this had a little bit of green in it, so I decided to just go ahead and go with the white, and it's also going to match the rest of our vignette. And here it is, all finished, and I love how this turned out. I can't wait for you to see it with everything else. Even after cutting it down, it's still 2 feet across, so it's huge. And the ones that are kind of like this online are anywhere from $80 to over $100, but I really love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. For our next DIY, I'm going to be using 2 plunger handles, a square sign, and then 2 of these super cutie patootie little frames that are in the gold color. So the first thing I did was took the tags off of my plunger handles, and I just used my heat tool to get those off super easily. But then the little heart was being kind of stubborn and took off some of that top wood on my sign. I tried sanding it out, but it never came completely smooth, so I'll fix that in a second. So then I'm going to also sand the sides so that none of those hearts stick out once I paint it. So to fix the top, I'm just going to use a square plank from the Dollar Tree, and it fit perfectly on top and even gave it a cute little lip, so that worked out great. Now I'm going to take a drill and just put 2 holes on the sides, and I went kind of towards the top because I'm going to be placing my plunger handles on each side and secure it with some jute twine, so I want it to be as high as it can so that it has a better hold. That'll make much more sense in just a second. So now I'm just going to paint everything with my Waverly chalk paint in ink, and I'm going to give everything 2 coats just to make sure nothing's peeking out. And then once everything's dry, I'm going to take some jute twine and wrap the very bottoms of my plunger handles where the threads are, and then that'll give my other jute twine something to hold on to when I feed it through the bottom of my base. So to attach my plungers to each side of my base, I just took a shorter piece of jute twine and fed it through that hole to make a loop, and then I'll place my plunger inside of it and then pull it really tight, and then I'll make a knot in there and then add some hot glue to keep it in place. This would have been easier if I had a second set of hands, but I didn't, so I just had to make do. So this is how these adorable frames sit, but I decided to pull up that stand, and that's going to be our hanger instead from the top. And then I'm going to measure on the side of my plunger handles to see where I need to make those holes. And since you guys know to do as I say and not as I do, these holes should have been drilled before I put this piece together. And really what had happened is my engineering skills had escaped me, and I had forgotten that I needed something to keep these dowels apart. So I had to add those in, and then I'm going to paint those black, and then I'll hang my frames from each of those dowels. And here it is, all finished, and I think this is so pretty. And I just printed out some words and stuck it in between the 2 glasses. I have a little bit of a wonkiness situation because I didn't drill on a flat surface, but you can learn from my mistakes and make yours perfectly straight. But I love how this turned out, and I hope you like it too. So I thought I would throw this little thrift flip into this video. That's still so hard to say. But I found this at the Goodwill for $3, and I wasn't in love with the silver color, but I loved how original and interesting it was. So I thought it would go perfectly with our Modern Farmhouse decor. I guess you could almost say this is Scandinavian too, but anyway, I don't know my styles. So I just took it outside and painted it completely black using my matte black spray paint. And then I took some Dollar Tree cork sheet and just replaced the bottom. And then in another thrifting trip, I found some super skinny candles that I thought were so pretty. And I picked those up, and it happened to be that they worked perfectly for this. And as I always say, it's not hoarding if you use it. For our next Dollar Tree DIY, I've got a plastic bowl, a candle holder, and a vase, and then I have a thrifted vase that's a little bit larger for $2 from the Goodwill. And so you can get these, if you've gotten flowers or something from somebody. I've been dying to try this paint effect, and this is the perfect time to use your old chalk paint that's all dried up and crusty at the bottom of the bottle. So I just took some black chalk paint and put it into a bowl, and then I went outside and got some dirt, and I'm just going to add a little bit to that. Originally I had spray painted my items with my black matte spray paint, but it started to rain again. So I had to finish it up with my chalk paint, and I think it turns out even better. I wanted to give it some texture on this glass because it was really flat. So I thought adding the dirt would make that nice and textured and give it some touchy goodness. And then after I get the vases painted, I'm going to take some more of that dirt and rub it on there to give it that old pottery weathered look. And I think it turns out so pretty. I didn't use the dirt mixture on my bowl because it was already textured enough. But I did add some more chalk paint because it didn't get completely spray painted before the rains came. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the candle holder because that's going to be the base of our bowl. So this was the super fun part, and I left some of that paint still wet so that when I rubbed the dirt in, it would have a different dimension and just give it all kinds of layers and just added interest. And I think this turns out so pretty. I've seen a lot of DIYers do this in different ways with the spray paint, and they all turn out so pretty. So pretty much this is the perfect project that you cannot mess up. So for the bowl, because I had part of it painted in chalk paint and part in the spray paint, you could see my lines. So I did have to go back and give it some more chalk paint so that those lines would go away. And then I did the same thing on the candle holder to give them the same finish. And then I'm going to take some multi-purpose cement and my hot glue and attach my candle holder to the bottom of my bowl. And then I still had some more paint left over with the dirt in it. So I just found this frosted candle holder from the Dollar Tree and just added it to the bottom of that. And then I couldn't stop myself. I had to do some white also. So I just added some more dirt into some white chalk paint and then added that towards the top. And then my paintbrush kind of dragged through the black and made it a pretty gray. So I just blended that in and oh, it's so pretty. And here's the vases all done, and I love how these turned out so much. I have some pampas grass that is actually my daughter's, and then some Dollar Tree succulents and some Walmart eucalyptus, and I just popped those right in there. Now I'm no Lone Fox or Xoxo McKenna or Justin Wray, but I think these really turned out so pretty. It's a totally different look that I'm used to doing, but as soon as my daughter saw it all, she wants everything. But I love how it turned out, and I hope you like it too. For our next Dollar Tree DIY, I'm going to be using 3 of these boards, some cables, and then some beads. These are from Walmart at Christmas time, and I didn't have to paint them, so that's why I'm using these. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut one of my boards in half, and these are 18 inches long, so I cut it down to 9 inches, and I'm just using my miter saw outside, and I'll give that a whack. And then since I didn't get a perfect cut, I'm going to take both of them and stack them on top of each other and cut them at the same time so that they're exactly the same length. So I'm going to be using some screws from the Dollar Tree to put this together and some multi-purpose cement, and this is kind of replacing the E6000. It's not as messy and it sticks just as well. I sure could have used a second set of hands, and what do you know, sweet Michael J happens to walk by, my hero, and look how cute his hands are. So I'm just going to attach them using the longest ones at the top and the bottom, so the smaller ones will go in between. And because I'm going to be painting this piece black, I didn't sand any of my wood, but I did make sure to put the letters on the inside just in case it peeks through that black paint. I'm also not going to be distressing it this time around. I know, shocker. But because we're doing the Modern Farmhouse, I thought I would just leave it solid. But if you wanted to distress it, you should sand it first so that when you do distress it, that pretty brown wood will show through. So now I'm going to drill some holes along the side, and I went every 1.5 inches after I got the middle hole. So I'll have a total of 5 holes on each side. And then I'll sand those holes down, and then I'll paint it completely black. So this cabling is where I got the hook for our pulley in our first DIY, but this cable was no joke and it became more trouble than it was really worth. I had to end up getting Michael J to help me to connect the 2 pieces because one package wasn't enough for this project. So if you were to do this, I would recommend that you either use twine or string or something, just not this. It was alien space technology. And it was super hard to cut and work with. So again, learn from my mistakes. It still looks so pretty though. Anyway, now I'm going to take those Walmart beads and cut them apart, and then I'll start stringing them through what's going to become our rosary abacus. Of course, you don't have to make yours a rosary, but when I was researching what an abacus looked like online, they were separated in groups of 10 for the most part, so I just added some Hail Marys at the end, but you can do this in whatever colors or beads you want. You could use the Amazon beads or the Dollar Tree beads. I was just not really excited about painting beads in this quantity. And a sweet viewer had recommended getting the beaded garland at Walmart during Christmas, and I think these were like $4 or $5 for this entire string of beads. So that was a really good deal, and you don't have to paint them. And then once I got to the end, I just fed a final bead on there and then fed it back through that hole, and then I wasn't about cutting it again, so I just fed it up through the hole above it. And here it is, all finished, and oh my goodness, I love this so much. I added a wooden cross from the Dollar Tree to that hook, and I don't know why it looks so dirty. It's not dirty in real life. I went back and looked to see, and I don't know why it just shows on camera. But anyway, I absolutely love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. I hope you enjoyed all of these projects, and if you did, don't forget to give them a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and don't forget to check out Nicole's video, which will be linked in the description box below. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!